What if I told you that the fortunes of today's tech billionaires are just a drop in the bucket compared to the wealth of families who built their empires more than a century ago? It's true. When John D. Rockefeller died, his assets equaled roughly 1.5% of America's entire economic output. To have an equivalent share of the economy today, you'd need a fortune of well over $340 billion. These dynasties, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, created a playbook for building and keeping wealth that's still being used. They didn't just get rich, they built financial empires designed to last for generations, unlike many of today's richest individuals. In fact, many of the world's wealthiest families, like the Waltons and the Kochs, have fortunes that now far exceed those of the historical Rockefellers and Rothschilds. Today, we're unlocking the playbook of these original dynasties. We'll reveal the strategies they used to build a legacy that has stood the test of time and the hidden lifestyle choices that set them apart. This isn't just about money, it's about power, strategy, and creating a dynasty. 1. The foundation of an empire. Every empire starts with a single step, often from nothing. The founders of these great families weren't born into luxury. They were sharp, ambitious, and saw opportunities where everyone else just saw risk. Take Mayer Amschel Rothschild. His story begins in the 18th century Jewish ghetto of Frankfurt. Blocked from owning land or working in most trades, he started out dealing in old coins. But his vision went way beyond his small shop. He figured out that the real power wasn't in trading goods, but in trading money itself. His big break came when he became a court agent, managing money for German nobles. This gave him access to a network of power that stretched across Europe. Mayer Amschel had 5 sons, and in a stroke of genius, he placed each one in a key financial hub: Frankfurt, Vienna, London, Naples, and Paris. They worked in perfect sync, creating what was essentially the world's first international banking network, an empire built on information, speed, and trust. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, a young John D. Rockefeller started out as a teenage bookkeeper in Cleveland. His own father was a con artist who famously said, "I cheat my boys every chance I get. I want to make 'em sharp." And sharp he became. Rockefeller saw the future, and it was black gold. While everyone else was frantically drilling for oil, he focused on the one choke point in the industry: refining. In 1870, he founded the Standard Oil Company. Through a series of aggressive, and let's be honest, ruthless, business tactics, he controlled 90% of all U.S. oil refineries within a decade. He built a monopoly so powerful it could turn the lights on or off for an entire nation. Both men, Rothschild and Rockefeller, started small, but thought bigger than anyone else. They didn't want to just play the game. They wanted to own the whole stadium. 2. The blueprint for dominance. So, how did they pull it off? It wasn't luck. It was a cold, calculated blueprint for total dominance. Their strategies were so effective, they basically wrote the rules for modern capitalism, and in some cases, forced the government to write new laws just to stop them. The Rothschilds' secret weapon was their information network. The 5 brothers, spread across Europe, used a private courier system that was faster than any government's. The most famous story, though historians debate the details, is about the Battle of Waterloo. Legend says Nathan Rothschild, stationed in London, got the news of Napoleon's defeat hours before anyone else. While the London market was in a panic, expecting a British loss, Nathan held his nerve. Some versions of the story claim he sold his bonds to fuel the panic even more. Then, when the official news of victory finally broke, the market exploded, and the Rothschilds supposedly made an astronomical fortune. Whether the story is 100% true or not, it illustrates a key truth. They turned information into an unbeatable weapon, financing not just businesses, but governments and wars. Rockefeller's strategy was less about secret messages and more about brute force control. He pioneered what's called horizontal integration, a fancy term for buying up all your competitors. His infamous Cleveland massacre saw him acquire 22 of his 26 local rivals in just a few weeks. He did this by striking secret deals with the railroads for cheaper shipping rates, which let him undercut everyone else. Once his rivals were bleeding money, he'd swoop in and buy them for pennies on the dollar. But his real masterstroke was creating the trust. To get around laws preventing a company in one state from owning shares in another, Rockefeller's lawyers created the Standard Oil Trust. It was a legal fortress where dozens of companies were run by a single board, creating one giant that controlled the whole industry. This was so effective at crushing competition that the U.S. government had to invent new laws, the Sherman Antitrust Act, just to break it up. And when Standard Oil was finally dissolved, its pieces became the oil giants we know today. Like ExxonMobil and Chevron BP, however, originated separately as the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. 3. Protecting the fortune, the hidden lifestyle. Making a massive fortune is one thing. Keeping it in the family for generations is a whole different ballgame. There's a common saying in wealth management that 70% of wealthy families lose their money by the second generation, and 90% by the third. Yet families like the Rockefellers and Rothschilds have broken this rule for centuries. How? They switched from pure wealth creation to disciplined wealth preservation. The most powerful tool they used is the family trust. Think of it like a financial fortress, built to be impenetrable to taxes, creditors, and even a reckless heir with a spending problem. In 1934, John D. Rockefeller Jr. set up trusts for his children and grandchildren that were designed to last forever. This legal structure allows wealth to pass down through generations, mostly avoiding the estate taxes that would have otherwise eaten away at the fortune. The money isn't technically owned by any one person. It's owned by the trust itself, managed by professionals. The family members are beneficiaries, with strict rules on how much they can get, making sure the core fortune stays intact. But legal structures are just one part of the equation. The other is culture. These families built what is essentially a private government. The Rockefellers, for example, created a family office, a private company whose only job is to manage the family's assets, investments, and legal matters. They hold regular meetings where they hammer home financial literacy and family values. This isn't just about numbers. It's about teaching a sense of duty. They train younger generations to see wealth as a tool, not a toy. They are stewards of a legacy, not lottery winners. By the time a Rockefeller heir gets access to their fortune, they've been preparing for years to manage it. These strategies are more than just history lessons. They're timeless principles of wealth and power. If you're finding this look into the world of dynastic wealth as fascinating as I do, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We explore the strategies of the world's most powerful figures every week. 4. The art of legacy. In the final chapter of their lives, the great patriarchs faced a new challenge: their public image. Men like Rockefeller were often despised as ruthless robber barons. To make sure their family name would be respected for centuries, they had to rewrite their own story. They did it through the strategic art of philanthropy. Guided by his son, John D. Rockefeller began to systematically give his fortune away. But this wasn't just simple charity. He invented modern philanthropy, aiming to fix the root causes of problems. He founded the University of Chicago, the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, and the Rockefeller Foundation, which today has an endowment of around $6 billion. These institutions didn't just do a ton of good, they scrubbed the family name clean. Suddenly, Rockefeller was associated not just with oil, but with science, health, and education. Philanthropy gave them tax benefits, polished their image, and opened doors to a level of social and political influence that money alone could never buy. The Rothschilds also have a long history of giving, especially to the arts and education. Their name is attached to wineries, hospitals, and public works. This is a masterclass in reputation management. By funding the very institutions that write and preserve history, these families help ensure their story is told as one of innovation and public service. Their legacy today is not just in banking, but in a huge portfolio of businesses, including financial services, real estate, mining, and energy. So, what are the ultimate secrets of history's richest families? It really boils down to a few key ideas. First, think in terms of generations, not just years. Don't build a business. Build an empire designed to outlast you. Second, control the choke points. Whether it's oil refining or the fastest information network, own the one thing everyone else needs. Third, build a financial fortress. Use legal tools like trusts and family offices to shield your wealth from taxes, threats, and bad decisions. And finally, write your own legacy. Use philanthropy and public service to transform your name from one of pure wealth to one of lasting influence. The Rockefellers and Rothschilds didn't just make money. They mastered the systems of power and passed that knowledge down. While their fortunes are now spread among hundreds of heirs and their influence is more subtle, the blueprint they created is still the gold standard for anyone looking to build not just a fortune, but a dynasty. Now I have a question for you. If you could create one money law to pass down through your family for generations, what would it be? Let me know in the comments below.